Today we are restoring car number 2 of the Sweet 16, which happens to be the custom Corvette. This may look familiar. About a year ago we actually did a custom on this particular casting. We didn't do a restoration, but a custom. At any rate, this is the original casting. It was fairly chipped up, wheels were chewed up, but everything else was in fairly decent condition. And throughout the entire video we'll revisit some of the previous work that I've already done on this car. Now this particular casting was actually based off the real 1968 Corvette. And one really interesting fact, Mattel actually released the custom Corvette before the real Corvette hit the showroom floors. And like many of the Sweet 16, these were available in a Hong Kong version as well as a US version. Both were produced for about 2 years. Here's a Windex blue example, and then a blue example like our original casting. Both of these happen to be US versions. The Hong Kong version has blue tinted glass as well as some other differences. Here's a shot of a group of US versions. You can see many colors available. Creamy pink, bronze, you name it. And here are some Hong Kong versions, also available in a variety of different colors. Now one major difference between the Hong Kong versus US is the rear end. The rear of the US version is actually part of the base. Hong Kong, it's part of the body. The hoods are different as well. As you can see in this shot, the Hong Kong version has a longer hood. I believe it's a little wider as well. And here is the rarest version available, which happens to be creamy pink. Our original car was blue. We've done a lot of blue cars. I think we might shoot for this creamy pink. Going back to some of the original footage, this is where we are just simply center punching, and then we're going to drill out those rivets. Here's a close look at the interior. The interior is in great shape, however the windshield does have a slight crack. Next we're going to go ahead and strip it. Now I believe in this original video I was using aircraft stripper. I now solely use the citrus strip just because of the fumes. Now this particular casting we cleaned up the lines a little bit. We had a lot of flashing, so we cleaned up around the window with a small file and just got it nice and straight. Time to snip off those old wheels. And the reason why I typically snip the wheels is so I do not destroy the bearing. You can pull the bearing away from the axle very easily. Next we're going to go ahead and install our reproduction wheels. I've been getting these from eBay. I think I'm going to go back to the Redline shop. The last casting I did, which was the Firebird, those wheels were horrendous. I need to replace those. I do not like them at all. Now the original video on this particular casting was actually 2 parts. The first video, which you see here, is where we actually polished the car up, reassembled it, and then I asked the viewers what color I should make the car. It had a nice chrome finish to it, and everyone gave me a lot of great suggestions. Some people said leave it chrome, some people said paint it pink, blue. There were a lot of different options. But in the end, somebody had contacted me and wanted to buy it. They wanted it white, a creamy white, just like their father's car. So that's what we did. We painted it with some craft paint, a creamy white, a special mix. It looked great. And this particular person was going to buy it. They also wanted me to paint the interior brown. Well, I wasn't going to do that until I got paid. To make a long story short, they never came through with the funds. So thank goodness I did not paint that interior. Otherwise, I would have had to have found another car for the Sweet 16. In these shots, I was actually polishing it with rubbing compound, but I take it a step further. We actually use some new finish wax and polish it with wax as well. And the end result was excellent. This white paint, after we were done polishing it, looked great. But everything happens for a reason, and I'm glad we get to strip it of that white paint. Once we're done polishing, we're going to go ahead and reassemble with our 256 button head screws. And with that, the white version of this car is done. We also painted the taillights, which we are not going to do on this restoration. I'm not sure if they were painted originally. I can always go back and touch it up, but with the end result, which you'll see in a bit, I'm not sure you would notice it anyway. Now fast forward to 2019, February 15th. The casting still looks great, but it's time to take it apart. we'll go ahead and take out those 256 button head screws and rid this car of the white paint. Now, one thing about this craft paint is it strips very easily, and you can see it just comes off with the brush. So if you intend for the casting to be played with or handled a lot, I would not use the craft paint. Stick with an enamel, or better yet, a urethane. Now we're just taking our wire brush and lightly brushing off the excess white paint that didn't come off with the brush. And I could have just used a toothbrush here. I didn't necessarily need the wire brush. And after that, it's all cleaned up. But notice that original chrome finish that we achieved is somewhat gone. The paint just kind of eats away at it. So we're going to take some mother's polish and repolish the casting. Now in the example here, we're just doing the roof. You can tell it takes about 10 to 20 seconds to actually get back to the chrome finish. And then we'll go ahead and finish off the rest of the car. And these are very light passes at about a medium speed. Once we are done polishing, we've got our chrome back. We'll go ahead and wash it in warm soapy water, mineral spirits, and then soapy water again. Now it's time for the paint. And we're going to use that creamy pink, the one we were saving for the candy striper. We only need a little bit. Get some in our pipette, just a tad, and then we'll go ahead and add our hardener. It's about a 6-to-1 ratio. I kind of just guess. After that, we'll mix it all up right in the cup. And our first pass is going to be a very light pass. You will barely be able to see there's any paint. Here's our second pass, a little bit thicker, and then we've got our third pass, which is even thicker yet. Now we're starting to work on our fourth and final coat. This is a heavy coat, or a wet coat, whatever you want to call it. And the amount of coat you put on may vary, depends on how you spray. Now it's time for the reassembly. Go ahead and insert the glass, then the interior, and then we'll follow it up with the base. Now originally we did use 256 button head screws, and that's fine. We drilled and tapped, no big deal. We're going to go ahead and mix up some epoxy and install our reproduction rivets. And I think I may go this route for all of the Sweet 16, just to be a little bit different, to make them look more original. Of course they're not, and I'm not going to pass them off as original, but they just look more original. Go ahead and get that front one or the center, and then after that we'll work on the back one. And any squeeze out, I just use a little dental pick basically to get that out. And here is the finished product. I love the creamy pink. Thank goodness it's not white any longer. And the reason why I made this one creamy pink is because we're going to have a lot of cars that were blue. I'd like to make them all the original colors, but there's going to be too many blue ones. So why not use the ultra rare creamy pink version? And I wanted to get this video out tonight, so I sped up the process a bit. We baked the paint in the oven, 220 degrees for 30 minutes. And I think it turned out great. And that's going to wrap it up for this one. Before we do so, I'd like to thank my top patrons, which are Corbin Toll and Mark Kidd. Also, if you see any of the tools that I use in this video that you'd like to purchase for yourself, check out the Amazon links. They're located below the video in the description. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to post those below. And as always, thanks for watching.